I'm CM Magana from the Strange and Unusual podcast, a proud member of the Gonna Geek Network, just like the show you're listening to now. The opinions expressed are those of each individual host. Check out all the other podcasts at GonnaGeekNetwork.com and get ready because geekiness begins in 3, 2, 1.
You are listening to the Starling Tribune, a podcast dedicated to the Arrow TV show.
This guy gets more airtime than the Kardashians, right?
This podcast is not produced or maintained by the CW, Warner Brothers Television, CTV, or DC Comics. All characters, situations, and stories are the properties of Time Warner. I am the Oracle, and this is your Tribune.
Welcome back to the Starling Tribune. I am Stargate Pioneer. But if you think my name's a little funny, that's okay. Just call me SP. Your reporters for this special summer edition of the Starling Tribune. Looking back at episode 9 from season 1 of the Legends of Tomorrow are Chris.
There is no God.
And Neil.
Yeah, we were meant to be tortured and executed in Nanda. I can't believe I'm back here, Parbath.
Hey, guys, we're just a few Gonna Geekers that normally discuss the CW TV show Arrow. This podcast is recorded on Thursday, July 28th, 2016, live on Geeks.live and recorded on the Blob streaming service. Just a little reminder that I love sci-fi, but I'm all in on reading up on the comic lore more and more thanks to folks like Chris.
I'm not caught up on my comics at all.
And Neil.
Yeah, once I figure out the difference between Hippolyta and Themyscira, we're all good.
As I stated before, while we normally cover the CW television show Arrow, during this offseason, we're talking about what happened on the 9th episode of the CW television show Legends of Tomorrow, as well as DC TV news, articles, and announcements that have dropped during the past week of this offseason, and that will impact future episodes of Arrow when it returns for season 5. Plus, it will definitely contain spoilers for the current episode of Legends of Tomorrow, as well as pretty much slight spoilers for upcoming episodes, since they have all aired. So, consider yourself warned. All of our past published shows can be found over at our podcast network Collective, as I've heard it called, at www.gonnageek.com. Neil, let's just get right into this week's episode. Why don't you go ahead and break down the episode for us?
Awesome. Thanks, SP. This week, as you mentioned, we are talking season 1, episode 9 of DC's Legends of Tomorrow, titled Left Behind. Air date, March 31st, 2016. The director was John F. Showalter. Now, John F. Showalter has 27 directing credits going back to 2005 and lots of CW and genre cred. Now, while he only has 1 episode of Legends of Tomorrow under his belt, he's directed 3 episodes of Flash, 1 episode of Arrow, 4 of The 100 or The 100, 1 of Supergirl, 16 episodes of Supernatural, 1 of Constantine, 1 of Forever, plus The Mentalist, Revolution, Sleepy Hollow, Nikita, Alphas, and lots more.
I'm impressed with the Alphas there. That's a hard one to get, let me tell you.
I was never an Alphas guy, you know?
I took it into the ground to season 1 and then I stopped, but a lot of people actually liked it.
Yeah. The writers for this episode, co-writers, familiar names again, Beth Schwartz and Grain Godfrey. Now, Beth Schwartz is a name that we've heard pretty recently. She's written 2 episodes of Legends of Tomorrow, Left Behind and Failsafe. So we're on one of them right now. Plus, she's had 2 credits as consulting producer, the pilot, episode 1 and episode 2. Now on Arrow, Beth Schwartz has 18 credits as a writer, 23 as executive story producer, 2 as story 2 as a story credit, I guess, and 23 as co-producer. Grain Godfrey has writing credits pretty much focused on the CW, and I think Grain is now part of the genre writers pool with lots of work on the Flash. So for Legends of Tomorrow, 2 credits as writer, Left Behind and Failsafe, 2 as consulting producer. Again, the pilots part 1 and part 2, so very similar to Beth Schwartz. 23 episodes on The Flash as executive story editor, 8 as story editor, 5 as writer, and 1 credit for story by.
I do love the intermingling that they're doing on CW and CBS for last year for Supergirl with all their properties. But again, we talked about it before. I think the talent pool is a little shallow and they're stretched a little thin. I think we saw it manifest itself in the Arrow storyline last year. And I'm hoping during this off season, they've reloaded, they've retooled, and all 5 shows will be firing on all cylinders as we go into this next season in the fall of 2016. Just a little look back at the ratings for this particular episode of Legends of Tomorrow. Back on March 10th, it received a grand old rating of 1.97. So it was down a couple of hundredths of a point from the previous week at 2.01. And it's the first time it dipped below 2, and it won't be the last. It is on a steadily decline, but not much. It's not like it went down below 1 or anything. It just went down to 1.85. I think that's within the bounds of getting their 2 rating. And of course, everybody's watching it delayed after the fact anyway. So that is all cool. If you look at the other episodes of the DC universe that were airing that particular week, Arrow, Beacon of Hope, got a 2.34 rating. The Flash with Flashback got a 3.39 rating. And Supergirl over on the CBS got more than double, basically, of everything else at 7.17. And that was up. That was a big jump up from 6.0 the week before. So these shows in general are firing on all cylinders. This particular one was on the back burner. It's the first season for this show. It's on CW. I think it did pretty well.
I actually had a chance to rewatch that Flash episode just a couple of days ago. Believe it or not, it was on the TV show section of my flight back from the East Coast, where I got the podcast with Michelle and SP. So yeah, that was a great episode. It really deserved the 3.39. It was a lot of fun.
Let's see. That was the episode where Barry goes back to confront Eobard Thawne, and the time race are introduced. So we see our first time race, and that's a big question that we didn't see any time race in Legends of Tomorrow. And I think we talked about it before a couple of weeks ago as to why there were no time race in Legends of Tomorrow. We have no idea, basically, but they should definitely be in the show. All right. The title was Left Behind. I think we got to go to that great series Left Behind about, the apocalypse happening and everything. I think that's what this is about, right?
It is exactly what that's about. I don't see any parallels how it would fit anywhere else in this episode. They just must be big fans of that book series and the Nicolas Cage movie they made about it too.
Was Nicolas Cage in that movie?
They did one. There was a direct-to-DVD one that was like Kirk Cameron, I think, and then there was an actual in Hollywood on the big screens with Nicolas Cage as the title character. Because remember, Nick Cage went broke for a while, so he needed money, so he would do just about anything.
Well, he didn't do a great job of guarding Tess. So, I mean, the guy's a little suspect. And, Con Air, the thing crashed. I mean, things tend to happen when Nick Cage is
And he
around.
got the Declaration of Independence.
Stolen. Yeah, he's a national treasure, though. Right?
Oh, no. No.
Wah, wah.
Well, wah on this title because it's pretty obvious the trio were indeed left behind. And I always thought, why didn't Ray just put on the Atom suit and fly up to the ship as it was taking off? I mean, can he not put on the suit as fast as Iron Man?
No. It's not like Iron Man's suitcase suit where he just drops his "Baja" and puts it on. I don't know what that sound effect was.
Does he say Baja? Yeah, that was a great sound effect. Baja.
I've been listening to some Smodcast stuff with Jason Mewes in it, who makes up random sound effects, so it's probably just translating over to me where I'm making up my own now.
Awesome. Chris now has the sound effect soundtrack for the Gonna Geek Podcast Network.
Wiki.
Nice.
Wikipedia.
Well, and also you'd have to think that the time drive on that ship can maybe go a bit faster than his boot thruster. So, yeah, even if he had it on, you might not be able to catch up.
And the last thing you want to do is get sucked into the time stream, like in the wake of the ship, and just be floating out in time by yourself without even being able to catch up. That would suck.
Sounds like the Wasp.
Yeah, sort of does.
Now, there were a couple of other, layers. It's like an onion. There are layers.
Like a blooming onion?
Yeah, like an ogre.
Ooh.
An ogre
Somebody
has
hungry?
layer. Exactly.
I like blooming
Well-
onions. Mm.
You're killing me. Mick was left behind. Sarah was potentially left at the league. And then, who they were before was left behind via time drift. As Kendra said, lost the ability to hawk out. They were losing who they were. Those personalities were left behind. And there was a recurring theme of not only leaving things behind, but of internal conflict, leaving behind who you were and trying to figure out if the new person was who you were. And that, again, was with Kronos and with Canary. Are you who you were made into? Were you made into the assassin or the hunter, or who you really are? Leonard Snart's partner, White Canary who doesn't kill. So these were neat themes they played with throughout the entire episode.
So is a time drift like Tokyo time drift? Is that what we're talking about? Is it Fast and Furious? Is that what a time drift is like? Because I'm a little confused as to the concept.
Your personality slides around a corner and leaves a smear on the pavement.
Nice.
What
Like
kind
Top
of
Gear,
smear?
Top Time Gear.
Wow.
My-
I got nothing.
My brain
I
hurts
honestly
so much right now. It really
Have you
does.
guys seen the new Top Gear, by the way? Neil, I don't think you have because I don't think it's available up in Canada. Have you, Chris?
I don't watch
Matt-
Top Gear.
Matt LeBlanc is amazingly good in this series. Matter of fact, everybody but the lead host is really good. And the lead host, of course, quit the show. So we won't be seeing him in the next series of Top Gear. But if you haven't checked it out already, go check out Matt LeBlanc on that. And then you can go to his Lost in Space movie and, just geek out over that too.
No. Don't do it. Don't do it. Danger,
not
Will
do it.
Robinson.
No. The best part was that helmet that Matt LeBlanc got to use that came down at all the little slits, kind of looked like the Destroyer helmet a bit with the
I know.
animation. That was cool.
It was so cool.
Yeah,
love-
the other
not watch
hour and
our
45
show.
minutes was totally worth it then.
I was about to say.
I loved it. And the monkey flips the switch. It's just like podcasting, guys. All right, talking about Matt LeBlanc and his fights in Lost in Space. We had some fights in this episode. You cannot go to Nanda Parbat and not have fights. And we got some fights. Might not have been as good as Arrow, but it was pretty good. And Ray's like, oh my gosh, I've been here before.
Sorry, that was the best segue ever from Lost in Space, by the way. We got several fights in this one. We had the gun battle on the bridge of the Wave Rider right at the beginning with Kronos storming the ship. There wasn't a lot of fighting in that, and you actually heard more of it down the hallway when Jax and Professor Stein were basically arguing about whether or not they went back. But yeah, in Nanda Parbat, it was on. We had Sarah's training montage. We had the team storming Nanda Parbat and getting captured. Then we had that great jury or trial by Sarah and Kendra, nearly to the death. And then finally, when you couldn't get any crazier, Kronos breaks in and there's a battle royale in Nanda Parbat. Dogs and cats living together, everyone fighting everyone. A great little fight scene and lots of good sword choreography. I actually think the Sarah versus Kendra fight was very well choreographed.
Chick fight. It was awesome. It was awesome. And, I was looking at it and it was obvious when they were intercutting the stunt people with them, because I don't think neither Sarah nor Kendra can really hold a sword and move it the way you're supposed to in a fight to save their lives. So there's definitely some stunt people involved in that. And rightly so, because some moves like that, even if it was a fake sword, there's bound to be injury prone stuff happening, but they'll get better as they move up and are involved in this sort of thing. They'll get better over time.
Well, and I think the actress or the actor that plays Sarah has the advantage of also being a martial artist. So she's posted a lot of stuff, training videos and whatnot. I think it's, especially if she's done a couple of martial arts that do use weapons, either some kung fu or some aikido, she may have some inherent training back there. So it would be cool. I have no doubt that it's just going to get more awesome in season 2.
So the fight at the beginning of the episode on the bridge of the Wave Rider, and then Stein and Jax are like, no, we don't want to merge on the ship. We could destroy the ship. Really? what room have they been in that they've actually destroyed when they've merged? I mean, Jax can get a little carried away after they merge,
like he did to the door.
Right, which was totally unnecessary, but
Yes.
they didn't destroy the ship.
The issue is quite often he doesn't hit anything when he's throwing all those crazy fireballs. It's kind of the A-team syndrome. So he starts letting off a whole bunch of those fireballs. Then we've got a problem.
That's
it's
an
not turning
apt
the entire
analogy
stream.
there.
Yeah.
The A-team analogy. I mean, there's also the fact that they're basically a nuclear weapon walking around when they combine.
Did Jax receive his sharpshooting training with the Stormtrooper Academy?
It's more like you go to the state fair and you're throwing things just randomly in one of those little booths, the softballs, and not hitting a damn thing because you've been in the beer garden all afternoon. That is what he's been doing with those fireballs.
That's the way to do it, man. That's the way to do it.
Awesome.
Beer. Sorry.
All right. So, Neil, you've been going down the path the last few episodes on rating our dear captain, Captain Rip Hunter, on the scale of 1 to 10, where 1 was Captain Crunch and 10 was what? Jean-Luc Picard? I forget what number 10 was.
Let's go with Captain Picard.
Captain Picard. All right. So, Chris, while you're watching this episode,
why am I always first?
Did you have the ratings in mind? Well, I would have gone first, but I'm actually talking, so I'm throwing it to you.
I don't know.
Okay, I'll save you, Chris. I'll save you. I am going to give our dear Captain Rip Hunter a 7.
Wow.
Yes, I give him a 7, a passing grade. And I'll tell you this, he actually didn't do a heck of a lot during the episode, so there wasn't a lot of chance for him to screw up, which kind of puts him at 5 to begin with.
Now the grading scale slides a little bit to explain why.
Well, exactly. I have to justify my 7. And then he tells us that he had the forethought to steal genetic material from the team at the beginning in case they ever lost a limb.
Because that's not creepy.
He's like Krieger. He'll grow his own if he really wants to play with them, but it's okay. So he had the forethought, especially for the med bay. He had the ability to reboot and take the ship offline after Kronos had disabled them in the time stream. So he gets engineering cred for knowing your ship. And then right at the end, I think he is the voice of reason in let's not execute Mick Rory. And that one line that he had that kind of inspired the team, that you will see that miracles abound on this old time ship. It was like, well, now you're inspiring your crew. Huh.
Yeah, that was a powerful line.
Passing grade.
Passing fair. Okay. I see where you're coming from, but let's not forget, he allowed the ship to be taken over by Kronos to begin with by leaving the door open. Okay. So that's number 1. It was last episode, so we can't really count it for this episode. Number 2, he decides to go into Sarah's bedroom in Nana Parbat to rescue her. That's what you're thinking, buddy. And he gets a knife to his throat, and his entire team gets captured.
It probably was what he was thinking, because he's still all broken up over his wife dying.
All right, but the point is, he's going into Nana Parbat, and he thinks he could just waltz in and waltz out. I'm sorry, when has that ever really happened?
No, Barry did it.
Ollie did it.
Okay, but they've got
Malcolm
some experience. Rip doesn't. Okay, Malcolm's basically Roz. So, I mean, Rip is not any of those people.
It's kind of like the Arrow Cave. Anybody or Star Labs. Anybody that wants to walk in.
Gunther is not guarding the door at Nana Parbat.
Yeah, no one's guarding the door, evidently. How'd they get the entire team inside the stronghold? And then Rip's like, let me go get Sarah.
Assassins is guarding the door, and they still got in. All right, so maybe Rick's leadership was just that good.
Yeah.
That's how they got in.
I'm just happy I'm not going to have the highest ranking this week. I'm so happy.
But they all got kidnapped.
Again.
They went on a rescue mission and the script said so.
I'm quibbling over a couple of points. I think 7's high. I think you're right. It's average, and that's it. He didn't do anything spectacular. It was average by omission because he wasn't doing anything.
You got to take him up one notch for that line, though. The one line.
Yeah, but I'll take him down for getting captured in Nana Parbat.
Boy, you must hate a lot of Star Trek captains then, because they get captured all the time.
Plot requires, I guess. I don't know.
I got captured again because I'm Captain Kirk.
Okay,
I mean,
and
come
I'll
on.
take him down another notch for using just the one control arm again this week. I mean, he's flying manual, and all he's got is a stick that goes up and down. That's
Well,
it.
not his fault. That's the production team's fault.
I mean, that's what he's doing. Come on.
So what's your numerical ranking then, SP?
It's 5. It's average. Nothing more,
Wow.
nothing less.
So I was going to go 6 and call him Captain Jonathan Archer this week. So I don't feel bad. He's basically Captain Archer. He makes dumb mistakes because he doesn't know better still, but with the best of intentions.
At least Archer's got Trip.
Yeah, but Archer gets cool. Yeah, and he has Sarah eventually, and he's got Stein and all these other cool folks too. It's
So who's Trip and who's Porthos?
Porthos.
Is Stein Porthos and Sarah's Trip?
Hot girls Porthos.
No, I think
don't
Ray
know.
is the cuddly puppy dog. So
That's true.
yeah.
Well,
All
she's
right.
been hanging around Ray, so I figured the whole cuddly thing moved over to her too. I don't know.
We have to talk about Ray, don't we?
I was saying, speaking of Ray, he had a lot to do in this episode.
He did. He's trying to get engaged
He's all mopey now.
twice. And it doesn't work for him. And he teaches Bill Gates' dad. That's cool. I think that's the coolest part of the episode.
Well, we assume it's Bill Gates' dad. It could just be another William Gates. It's not that uncommon a name.
It's like our very own Willie Nelson on the network. It happens.
It does indeed.
But Ray is trying to make things work. He's trying to do the beacon. He's got hope. And the two ladies with him have basically lost out. I mean, this guy has no moves at all. He can't keep women worth a dang. They keep leaving him. They might come back, but only for a little bit.
Well, and you feel bad for him because when he finally does give up on the fact, hey, we're going to try and catch up with the ship again, he decides, hey, I'm going to live my life here in 1960 and just try and be happy. That's when, hey, a time ship lands in front of him and he's like, what the hell? I literally just decided I'm ready to give up on all this and here's the time ship. What a punch in the gut.
Sorry for him. Yeah, exactly. Like, he can't win. Like, he was freaking Superman and he can't catch a break.
He's got 100 merit badges, though.
He's
an
an Eagle
Does
Eagle
not
Scout.
help with the ladies. Honestly, we have seen it does not help with the ladies.
It does not.
Speaking from experience, it does not. No. They're
You
like,
have 100
so?
merit badges?
I had a lot. I don't think I had 100, but I had a lot. I could go pull. I was a scout, and I had to put merit badges in the back of my merit badge sash because I ran out of room on the front. So I had a lot.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Ray's just hopelessly
cred.
lost. Yeah. Ray's got a lot of nerd cred. I mean, the dude was Superman, though. I mean, you got to. I feel for the actor, but he's just playing this character really. I don't know. I guess it's what Ray Palmer is, but I'm not feeling it.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is, not only did we get a lot of Ray in this episode, but we got a lot of Hawkgirl, of Kendra Saunders, trapped with him. And Chris, I think it's fair to say that you have been vindicated yet again this week.
What, you mean that she used to be a barista?
Yes.
She made more than $10,000 a year as a barista.
I keep hitting on that line because it's so dumb that it keeps coming back. It's not because I hate the character or anything like that, but I'm like, come on, just let it go. It was funny the first couple times, but now it's just like...
We lived without it last week, and it came back this week, and I'm like, oh no, she did not. Oh no, she didn't. I thought this would die by now, but it's still there. I used to be a barista.
I have a theory.
Oh, please, bring it on.
Actually, the writers are trolling you, Chris. That is my entire theory.
Just to piss me off is what you're saying. They're like, oh, that Chris Farrell guy, we're going to make him real angry. Toss in the barista line again and just watch how angry he gets.
See, what they're doing is they're using the wave writer. There's an actual functional wave writer, right? So the show has aired. It's been produced last fall in 2015. It aired in 2016. And they're going forward into the summer of 2016. They're listening to our podcast. They're going, oh, Chris really hates this. We're going to go back to the fall of 2015 and we're going to write in more barista lines throughout the rest of the season. That's exactly what happened.
Kudos to them if that's what they're going to the lengths of to make me get cranky, because really kudos. No one else has gone to those lengths to make me be cranky, and I am flattered.
SP, the only thing I have to say is they must have a lot of time on their hands if they have worked through their entire list of things to do in the future to screw with the timeline, to bring things back to have an impact on current day, if they are down to screwing with the Starling Tribune.
Hey,
Well, they
we're
don't want
pretty
the
important.
time race to come after them, so they're doing really small things, stuff that won't really matter, right? They've seen what happens to the time race over on Flash. Like, oh no, we're not going to do that. Let's just screw with some podcasters. That's exactly what they're doing.
Oh, Lordy. Well, let's see. Kendra had some great scenes. She had a lot of great scenes in Nanda Parbat that we talked about. We talked about the family life that she had in 1958, hanging out at the university. But she really became herself again at the end, again, through the fight with Sarah, bringing the wings back out, wielding the sword. It was a pretty decent, within or contained within the episode arc for her. So
When's she going to wield the espresso maker again? That's the important thing. Because, she used to be a barista.
Bring it, Neil, really bringing the wings back out? She hawked out. Or, to use a hashtag from last week, she valked out.
No, you can't. There's not vampire hawks this week.
I know, but
you can't bring that one back. No.
I was just trying to bring it back.
Oh, man. Doesn't work anymore.
Okay, well, she hawked out anyway.
Oh,
kind of like a Hulk out.
Okay. So that's how we're... Okay, maybe that works better than if we try and cross it with Hulk and Hawk. Okay, we might be able to go with...
The Valk or the Hawk? I don't know. Where are you? Where's your headspace?
My head is really not tracking right now. I'm trying to come up with a new word. It's not working.
Are you dealing with some time drift right now, Chris? Once again, the Starling Tribune, the GoToGeek.com network soundboard is in full swing.
Yeah, I can hit. Yeah, we still have to add hashtag no Laurel, no arrow with Chris's voice to the soundboard.
I hate you guys again.
Yeah, so I was listening to an episode that we did last week, and he seriously said hashtag no Laurel, no arrow, and I was I was like, I've got to clamor. No, gonna clamor. No, gonna. So I did not clamor it, but should I, Neil?
I don't care.
Oh yeah,
send
no,
the Laurel.
That's a clamor.
Send the Laurel lovers my way, and I'll cruelly dash the host. Be like, worst character ever, just like Comic Book Guy says.
The last time I clamored that, you got 50 new followers.
Yes, because they thought I was serious. They didn't know I was being sarcastic, making fun of the no Laurel, no arrow thing.
But the new tone that you had the new one in, dude.
There's no mistaking.
Hundreds. Yeah.
Yeah, you were serious when you said it. So.
Oh, very much so. I love Laurel.
On a soundboard, you could just throw that in whenever you want. Take it over to the Gonna Geek Primecast. No Laurel, no arrow. Just throw it in there.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right.
I'm
done
calling
deal.
it. Do it.
We're on. I'm on it.
I got a soundboard sitting right here. I'll just hit there and push it every once in a while on the show when it makes sense.
Somebody else did something kind of stupid, which was
it was me. I said hashtag no Laurel, no arrow.
when Snart froze his hand off. Come on, man.
He's trying to save his boy. He knew something was going to happen.
Okay, well, why don't you just freeze the handcuff off?
Can't guarantee that's going to shatter.
Well, you could try
future
first.
materials, man.
You try. The gun's got more than one shot in it.
It's not as dramatic that way, SP. Come on. We need the drama. Legends of Tomorrow is all about drama, interpersonal relationships, and no Laurel and no arrow.
Did you see what was left of his nub? It was just a little shriveled up nub.
He got Skywalkered.
But it worked. Yes, but it worked. You know what? It worked. He got back to Nanda Parbat. He stopped them from killing his boy. All good. And he grew it back with some pretty sweet CGI. So I'm okay with that.
Well, here's the thing. He got rid of that with the express purpose of trying to not have everyone kill each other, having no idea he could grow his hand back. It's kind of a heroic move.
It was heroic, but it was based on his bonehead decision to knock Mick out. And wasn't Mick in 2016 why was he like eating rats in 26? What was up with that? There's civilization all around in 2016.
That wasn't Earth they left him on, was it?
They left him somewhere weird.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I figured it was right outside Vancouver.
Negative. It seemed like it was some desolate place all by itself.
You sure it wasn't Vancouver? It looked an awful lot like Vancouver to me.
Well, that is desolate and all by itself,
It's
I guess.
the Vancouver you're looking for.
I see. Maybe some Stargate SG-1 planet.
Yes, it was because or somewhere they touched down with BSG.
So PX3817 then?
I'm trying to remember the other planet because it was in an early episode and SG-1 and SG-2 were fighting over different planets. And so I want this one. I want that one, whatever. And it was some numbers and letters. They didn't know anything about it. I am totally boring you guys. Let's move on to...
Let's talk Ra's al Ghul because, listen, why did any of us watch this episode? It was for more freaking Ra's al Ghul.
I watched it because it was the next one on the list to watch.
Well, and we do a podcast on it. So
I
there
watched
was
it 'cause
maybe
you guys
a couple
made
of
me.
reasons. But listen, we got more more Ra's al Ghul, which was awesome. We got lots of great interaction with Sarah. We got Talia confirmed in the Arrowverse. Now, come on, that in itself was pretty epic because so far we've only had Nyssa. And if you talk about the number one daughter in the Batverse, oh my God, we need a Bat checklist for this one. We've got Talia.
Well,
and that line
really?
at the end, your daughter yet to be born, I'm pretty sure you'll call her Nyssa. That was pretty cool.
Yes.
That was cool, but with the Talia confirmed, is it really? I mean, we're doing all sorts of time stuff. Time's changing in front of their eyes. Is Talia really there?
Yes.
Yes.
They didn't undo the past. They have a bad habit of undoing the future, but
they might do
relative
it in
to
season
us.
2 because we'll see later on today.
So,
there's a news story about that.
Until DC Comics and Warner Brothers says, "Hey, you're not allowed to use this character anymore," they used Talia, much like we had with the Suicide Squad and Arrow, where they set it all up and then DC took it away to make a movie. That's what's probably going to happen here.
Can we use a child Talia? We won't actually do it, but maybe that was a fan Easter egg, to tell you the truth. Maybe that was just for us. And if it was, I'm okay with that.
I looked at it as an Easter egg, much like the whole rumored Harley Quinn appearance with the Suicide Squad in Arrow season 2, I believe it was, where it's literally just a blonde girl and you see her back and it's Tara Strong's voice. It's just a nice Easter egg.
Totally. Anybody else that we really need to unpack on this one? We didn't have any Vandal Savage. We've talked, well, I guess finally it's White Canary, Sarah Lance. Going back to the League of Assassins was one of the cornerstone kind of threads. It actually drove, I would say, about half of this entire episode. She worked out really well as an assassin, and they had it right. She'd been there, done that before. She was really good at it because it's her second time through. But at the end, she comes back to the team. I think we all knew that was going to happen. It was just a matter of time. And those inevitabilities in a show like this, it may take away from some of the excitement, the will she, won't she. But at the end, we got a lot of cool League of Assassins action. So I'm okay with the arc that she traveled in this episode.
What do you think, Mr. Chris?
Yeah, I think Neil pretty much nailed it. She had a really good arc this episode, and it solves the bloodlust, it seems now, which is one of the big things that character had going against it, was trying to figure out how to not have the urge to kill so much.
Yeah.
I was okay with the Sarah arc in this particular one, but I think I caught her acting in a couple of locations, and it was a little subpar from what I remembered from her. And it was like, really? Are you just phoning this in? And it was just like a couple of small lines and a couple of scenes.
I think it was on purpose, though, for the League of Assassins stuff, because they're basically Raz's drones at that point in time. They're almost like automatons because they're there to do his bidding.
Well, then kudos to her.
Yeah, that's how I looked at it. Maybe I was going down the wrong path, though.
The dark path?
The dark path. The darkest timeline.
The darkest night.
Oh. So, yeah, all in all, I think, I'll come back to what I said. I think personally, Sarah had a great arc on this episode. I I just want more League of Assassins. It's a shame that we aren't getting it in Arrow. It might come back. It'd be great if it does. We know there's still assassins out there floating around, and you get solid fight choreography when you have ninja assassins with swords. Full stop.
That should
Sure
be
enough.
a band name right there. Ninja Assassins with Swords.
If I ever get time, I would love to go back and rewatch season 2, season 3 of Arrow into season 1. There's just some amazing choreography. We haven't really gotten that combined fights like we did back then in Arrow. We have mass fights, but they're just not as cool, not as set up as like they have been. So I'm really looking forward to this next season because we've been told it's pretty cool. So I'm looking forward to pretty cool Arrow. You guys got anything else for this episode?
I think that's it.
I think I'm good.
All righty. Neil, what do we got running for us next week?
Next week's promo was for Legends of Tomorrow Left Behind, season 1, episode
incorrect.
number.
It is Legends of Tomorrow Progeny. Yes.
That's an edit point.
Okay, take it again.
Next week, we have Legends of Tomorrow, Season 1, Episode 10, Progeny, air date of Thursday, April 7th, 2016. The summary for this episode was the team was divided over killing a 14-year-old boy who will grow to be a powerful ally for Savage. Directed by David Geddes, writers Phil Klemmer and Mark Guggenheim, the man himself.
Yeah, the two that started the series off, actually with a bunch of other people writing. I think there was like 5 writers for the pilot episode or something like that. Can't wait for next week. This is the time in the podcast where we roll into Easter eggs and pop culture references. Used to be the Bachelor checklist, as we talk, maybe the back chick list. Chick list? That would be cool, wouldn't it? Okay. So Batgirl number 1, by the way, came out this week. That was awesome. Okay. So the current pop culture references for this episode. So Chris, what do we got?
So first of all, we touched on at the top of the show, the title is Left Behind, and we all made a joke about, hey, the post-apocalyptic Christian book series. Well, we kind of forgot there was an episode in season 3 of Arrow called Left Behind also, which was where Oliver was presumed dead after dueling with Ra's al Ghul on the top of the mountain.
Yeah. The second Easter egg for this episode, it's not really an Easter egg because it is front and center, but it's a return to Nanda Parbat and Ra's al Ghul, a seminal Bat villain in the DC universe. Played by Matt Nable, I think we can all agree he was pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was an awesome episode. So what else we got? I know you want to take this next one, Chris.
The next one, we got our reference to Talia al Ghul, as he referred to the young child that we were supposed to think was Nyssa as Talia. And if you're not familiar with Talia al Ghul, she is Batman's often love interest and the mother of his son Damian, who is now the current Robin in the comics.
Nice. The next one I'll take, I mentioned it before during the podcast, when Ray Palmer was teaching, and I didn't catch the university that he was teaching. I don't think it matters anyway. He looked surprisingly like Clark Kent, which, oh, by the way, he actually played Clark Kent in Superman Returns 2005 movie, which I guess went nowhere because they rebooted the entire thing.
The next Easter egg was almost a bit of an oops, but maybe not. You can always make excuses for the production crew. So they are playing the game of life. Now, I don't know if you guys play the game of life with that big rainbow colored spinner in the middle of the board.
Everybody's got the game of life.
It was a staple. Anyways, the issue is they are trapped in 1958 and then 1959, and they bleed into 1960. Now, the game of life was only created in 1960. So if those scenes took place maybe at the beginning of the year, the game would not have existed. So there's a chance this was a leftover prop from all those moving boxes they brought in the last episode from the Wave Riders. And now Tickle Trunk, whatever we decided it came from.
They might have, Gideon might have created the game of life. Because
let's go with that.
Because we all agreed that all the moving boxes came from Gideon.
Yep, I'll give you that.
Sure.
Gideon created the game of that. That's awesome. So what do we got next?
So next up, when they are split away from the team and on their own, they wind up in Hub City in 1958, which is the home of comic heroes like The Question and other DC superheroes that were imported from the old Charlton comics. Hub City's also been referenced numerous times on Arrow and The Flash. We've actually seen it before on Legends of Tomorrow.
Nice. Neil, what do we got?
Well, the next one, maybe I'll take a couple here. We talked about Nanda Parbat when we talked about Ra's al Ghul. It is a frequent set and splash page, if you will, that they use in the Arrow show, especially in the last couple of seasons. We've talked about Ra's and Talia, so it's a bit of a no-brainer. But we get another reference to the vanishing point as well when when Mick talks about where he was taken and how he was brainwashed and trained. It is a staple in the DC universe, home of the Time Masters. So very cool to get it mentioned again. And spoiler alert, we'll end up there in this series.
We will. This next one was a learning point for me because I had no idea about it. Remember, not really that steeped in the comic background, more of a sci-fi guy. But the Shadow Record apparently is a document that is listing of all of the League of Assassins. And I didn't know about this. Is this a staple of the comics, guys?
I've personally never seen it, but it could be a reference to the League of Shadows in the Nolan series.
Gotcha. All right. Well, it was cool nonetheless. And if this becomes a thing, then we're here for the start of it. That's awesome. Right?
It's true. So there's an awesome threat that Mick makes to Snart. That he's basically going to start in the far future and continually go back in time and kill Snart's sister in front of him. It's a badass moment. And then you kind of realize, oh, wait a second. Something similar happened in a book by Mark Waid called The Kingdom, which is a follow-up to Kingdom Come, in which the main villain Gog did that same thing to Superman.
It's crazy.
This next one I alluded to before during the podcast. We've got Kendra Hawking out, which is probably a reference to the hulking out back over in the Marvel Universe. So kudos for them for doing a small little crossover reference there.
Exactly.
Hawk smash.
The next Easter egg was mentioned by Ray twice in this episode, and I chose it from my intro quote at the beginning, where he mentioned that he was meant to be tortured and executed in Nanda. I can't believe we're back here, Parbat. And he says it twice in the episode. He has been imprisoned in that very same cell when they went to try to free Ollie. So it a callback to Arrow, and it's a good thing we're an Arrow podcast because we're right at home in Nanda Parbat, especially in the jail cells.
So could he have gone back to the cell after he was let free and place something there for his past self in the future to pick up and escape?
Sure, and hope no one finds it in 50 years.
That's right.
Yep. Dude, we totally have to remember to put that there.
The trash can. Got to do the trash can. Remember the trash can. A little bit of Bill and Ted's there. Excellent adventure.
Because that should be everybody's benchmark for time travel stories.
It works.
And finally, there's a general cool comment about the ties to Sarah Lance and Canary in Arrow, especially with that comment, go back and make sure that your sister, who isn't born yet, is in the South China Sea in the future. And he's like, who, my sister or my daughter, Talia? No, your daughter yet to be born, Nisa. It was a very cool line. A lot of reference to where the series will go and to the character of Sarah in her 4-year arc so far in the Arrow show.
So you're Ra's al Ghul. Do you trust this person to do what she said to do? I mean, I don't know if I would.
She did just save your rule over the League of Assassins, basically.
We didn't talk about it, but Ross was totally nonplussed with all the craziness going on around him. Kendra hawked out, Adam's in the suit, Firestorm merges. It's a long story, bro. Roz just rolled with it, so I don't know. Maybe he was tripping on some LSD or something.
No, the dude has the magic hot tub to chill out in. He's seen a lot of crap, so I think he's good.
Are you sure he craps in the hot tub?
Oh, man. That's how they bring people back to life.
I know. But Neil said he's seen a lot of crap. It was floating in the hot tub of magic. I don't know.
Now that's a magic hot tub time machine.
Now I'm just thinking Caddyshack with the O. Henry bar in the pool.
I'm all right.
Fair use alert. Fair use alert.
let's move on to some news. We got plenty of it. We've got a little bit of SDCC, CC stuff going on, but more importantly, we have some direct Arrow stuff. So, Chris, what do we got?
So it's something we've talked about wanting to see before. Arrow is going back to street level crime. Stephen Amell did an interview where he's talking specifically about one of our favorite directors, Bam Bam, James Banford, who says Bam Bam gets it and gets the theme of the show, and it feels like it's a street level crime fighting show, and it's all about saving Star City and cleaning it up, which is what the show is. I think that is the best version of the show when we focus on that. Wendy Miracle also chimed in and said, we're going back to season 1. We're going to have really badass monsters. We're going back to the crime in the city. When we come back to the city, there's a lot of street crime and the mobsters have really taken over. So season 1, you have failed this city. They better bring that line back in some form. He's obviously not going to kill someone when they have failed the city, because though he's back sort of on the killing bandwagon, it was kind of only a temporary thing, I think.
I am all about where they're going with this season. If they bring it back to what made us love the show in the first place, street level, it's worked for Marvel on Netflix. It worked for Arrow in season 1 and season 2. Great call by the showrunners.
I'm looking forward to it. I remember podcasting on season 1. I did it with Wing, and then Jay hopped on board later. And I remember it was good. The fights were good and everything, but I remember there were a lot of quips about the acting of the show. I mean, that's where Chris really grew to love Laurel on the show.
Oh, yeah. She's my favorite. I love Laurel.
Bring it back, Chris. Bring it back.
So I think if they learn from their mistakes, both in season 1 and season 4, I'm hoping for some movement forward to bring it, to reboot it basically back to the beginning. But the jury's still out until we actually see the episodes. So we'll see on that. So Neil, what do we got next?
Well, Stephen Amell has confirmed a few things. He says that Oliver's most important relationship in the entire show is his relationship with Star City, but that doesn't mean he's not going to be with Felicity, that Felicity is still going to be a thing. And he says that his objective is to make it better and to fulfill what his father asked him to do regarding Star City. So Oliver and Felicity are very much team members at this point, and she thinks there should be a new team. And we've seen it in the SDCC trailer that we're going to talk about in a sec, that is all about Felicity standing by his side, creating a new team to go out and fight crime with Ollie.
We've seen all the new casting of the younger crowd. I think there's going to be some loss coming into the first half of the season. I don't think they're going to be able to keep everybody around. So we'll see. And I know that they've hinted that they would love to have Arsenal back. I think it's a scheduling thing. I think it's a writing thing. Does it fit in the story? And I think it's what is he doing for the rest of the season. I think at this point, with Thea out, because she's ruled out right now, right, for Team Arrow for the moment.
In the trailer, and she's in the season 5 trailer in costume. So I think maybe she's kind of in, but then back out again. Like, I have a real tough time with that one. Diggle, I know he's out, right? He is off with the special forces doing his thing.
For now.
Thea's still for now.
Well, we know,
and that's the issue.
My theory with Thea is something's going to happen with Ollie before they get this whole new team put together, and the only way that Oliver can be saved is if Speedy makes an appearance to try and pull his butt out of the fire. That's my guess of what's going to happen.
We'll see. I haven't seen any stories yet come out for the beginning of the season, so just rolling into October. When's the premiere date again? It's October 3rd or something like that. Can't remember the exact date, but it's going to be cool. Hey,
I don't have it on the tip of my tongue, but yeah, it was early October. Hey guys, speaking of SDCC, did you guys see the teaser trailer, the new show reel for season 5?
I did.
I have not had a chance.
Oh, so we get a lot of cutscenes from the new episode. Of course, they're probably three episodes into filming at this point in time. A lot of little looks at what's coming, a look at the new team coming down to the Arrow Cave, at who he's been recruiting, and also one of our new villains, the Ragman, who is terrorizing Star City. So it's pretty awesome. And we get the return of the salmon ladder. Oh, yeah. But SP, it's not who you think.
Is it Felicity?
No.
No.
He just said it's not who you think. We knew that was your default go-to.
Well, I was just thinking, we need a shirtless scene, and we've gotten one with Felicity so far, so
we'll tease it there. So, listener, if you haven't seen the season 5 sizzle reel trailer, go and check out and join us next week as we talk to SP and find out who did the salmon ladder.
Sounds good to me. There, Chris, you got to take this next.
I knew I was going to get this news story. So we talked about on the top of the show, Katie Cassidy signed a new contract. She's going to star on all of the Berlanti and Guggenheim DC comic book shows. She struck a deal with the CW that makes her a series regular across all of the shows. During the Arrow SDCC panel, Wendy Miracle announced Cassidy will add the Flash and Legends tomorrow to her resume. Following John Barrowman and Wentworth Miller. I'm so excited, guys.
I actually think it's in your Gonna Geek contract that you have to guest on other shows when there are episodes that have Laurel that you need to opine on.
I am voiding that contract right now.
I think this is they're admitting that they made a mistake. They made a huge mistake.
Well, they didn't say it's our Laurel that's going to show up from Arrow. It could be someone from Earth 2 or Earth 67 or something like that.
I know, but
keep that in mind.
Right, but if they were really just going to kill off the character, just kill her off, like Moira Queen, like anybody else that they've killed off,
like Tommy, who we all forget about because everyone's like, that character stunk.
Right, and you keep on thinking when they were bringing him back in season 2, he came back for a flashback episode or whatever, and we're all thinking, oh, he didn't really die. But yeah, he really died. So it's hard to say who stays dead and who doesn't. And in this particular case, the fan base was like, we're going to boycott your show if you don't bring this character back. And they backed themselves into a corner because they said unequivocally, this character is dead. Laurel Lance is dead. She will not come back to Arrow. And this is their attempt to make up for it. But they made a mistake. And I hope that they bring her back and they bring her back in a good way, that they don't screw that up, because the rest of the fan base that's left that likes her is just going to take off and say bye-bye to CW.
I wouldn't go that far, but I would say that, yeah, this is a way to bring her back. And
she's not that popular.
Yeah, it's not going to kill the show. Let's put it that way. But I'm in favor of what they've done. I was a big fan of the arc that Katie Cassidy had at the end. I was sad to see the writers make the decision and the showrunners that make the decision that they did. If we get more Katie Cassidy, awesome. I'm actually all for it.
It'll be interesting to see. I mean, like, I know I'm down on the character of Laurel in general, and I mostly play it up just for laughs at this point. But it's not the same as having that character killed off as if you truly did kill off Oliver Queen. You can't do the show without Stephen Amell. I'd never really consider her one of the core main characters until they sort of tried to cause that to happen in season 4.
Agreed.
Right. Well, let's talk about the costume of the Terrific.
So we've talked about this one with Echo Kellum before. It's been hinted at, but at SDCC, he was cornered by comicbook.com, and they said, are we getting the Fair Play jacket, the Mr. Terrific costume? And he said, we are definitely getting Mr. Terrific in costume. And in fact, he has been out wearing a jacket with Fair Play on it, and nobody noticed.
Really? Like out in public?
Must have been on the show and we didn't notice it. I'm kind of tempted to go back and watch and see now.
Well, we've mentioned that we've seen something on his sleeves that we weren't able to zoom in on and see what the writing, and we thought it was like filler or something like that, and it wasn't fantastic. We've actually done that before, but
yeah, it was probably Fair Play in like Sanskrit or something. Oh, nobody caught it. Nobody. Yeah, right.
Right.
We wrote it in Latin in size 3-point font.
Well, we have a treat for you guys, because not only are we running down the Arrow news of the week, but we're going to run down a little bit of the rest of the DC TV news, starting with Supergirl. And the first one, Chris, I'm all gaga over.
So we were all wondering, how are they going to fit Supergirl in on this crossover? Because Mark Pedowitz, who heads up the CW, had already said back in the upfronts, hey, we're going to cross over all of our CW shows. So the internet, and specifically we, were abuzz going, how the heck are they going to do it? Well, Mark Guggenheim shared some details on just how they're going to pull off this crossover. Stopping short of calling it a full-on Supergirl crossover, Guggenheim confirmed the Girl of Steel will be stopping by all 3 of CW's other TV shows. He said it's an external threat from outside the shows that will involve Supergirl coming over to the Flash, then Arrow, then Legends of Tomorrow. So it might only be one character crossing across all of these shows.
Still, that would be a feat for Supergirl to enter into these shows because it's not her universe.
Can you imagine the filming schedule for Melissa Benoist over that week when they're trying to film all these shows?
Whew. She can do it. She's Supergirl.
Yep.
Yeah.
She'll just sing her way through it.
If anybody can, she can.
That's right.
Moving on to some more Supergirl news. The next issue or the next episode is great. This week, we had the new Superman costume unveiled. And it's pretty cool that comicbook.com actually went and compared it to the current Henry Cavill. So, guys, what do you think?
I like this suit. It feels very much like what we've seen in the comics.
I think it's fine. I look forward to seeing it on the screen. I like the bright and the colorful stuff. And I do not want to see the washed out Superman suit on the big screen anymore. I want to see a colorful Superman.
I love that they went with the bright yellow in the S, and it was a design decision they made with Supergirl to deviate from the traditional, it stands for hope. But I like the bright yellow on the shield, and I like the cape. The cape looks great, and the belt. I just personally, believe it or not, I wish he had red underwear. I miss the red underwear.
So I wish they would have that just for the sake of the old school nature of it, but we've already seen DC moved away from that with New 52. None of the characters have their underwear on the outside of their suit anymore, for lack of a better description.
Yeah, making it a little bit more functional, stuff like that. But it makes you a little nostalgia, and maybe they'll do a throwback from time to time.
Yeah. Before we move off Supergirl, did any of you guys see Conan this week when he was at Comic-Con?
Yes.
No.
He did an episode with Melissa Benoist, Grant Gustin, and Stephen Amell. It was absolutely fantastic, where they showed off their CW smolder look, as they called it, that they all have to learn how to do. If you get a chance, go and check it out. It's on Conan's YouTube page.
Yeah, and it's a really short segment, so don't worry. You're not going to be spending 20 minutes.
Yeah, we're talking like 7 to 8 minutes for this bit, really.
Right.
Yeah, and you could actually see Stephen Amell get really uncomfortable in one bit, because when Conan asks him, "So you're getting a new suit," and he kind of looks shifty, and they're like, "Yeah, now it has no sleeves," and it was like, "Oh, you mean last year's new suit over this year's new suit?" But he looked very uncomfortable for a moment.
I still think one of my favorite moments of that panel, though, is Grant Gustin says something along the line of, whenever Steven's here, I can't wear a t-shirt. I have to wear a jacket because he makes me feel insecure or something like that. And everyone has a good laugh. Because Stephen Amell's up there in like a t-shirt, so like his guns are bulging.
It's like Chris Evans next to Hemsworth. He's like, no, this dude's got it. I mean, if you are standing next to Chris Evans, I would feel small. Chris, I know you're a big guy, but you'd probably feel a little bit small next to Chris Evans. That's how Chris Evans feels next to Chris Hemsworth. And I wonder, I've never seen Hemsworth and Jason Momoa together, but they got to be just about the same size.
Hemsworth might be taller. I'm not sure. I can go consult the Google machine.
Okay. You do that, and we'll move on to the next news story with Grant Gustin.
Great. The next one's pretty cool. So we all know that Kevin Smith was the guest director for Flash last year, and he'll probably be coming back to Vancouver to guest direct another episode. But when Comic Book Resources approached Grant Gustin about, hey, what about classic directors like Joss Whedon? Grant Gustin was all over it. He said, yeah, actually, I met Joss Whedon last night. That'd be really cool. He was a really nice guy, and he loves the show. He's seen every episode of the show. So this probably doesn't mean we're getting a Joss Whedon episode. I'm sure there are a lot of people that watch a lot of TV shows, but who knows, if there's enough fan demand or enough internet buzz, we might be getting Joss Whedon directing an episode of The Flash.
That'd be pretty cool. Now, I did see the Justice League trailer, and we don't have it on the news schedule, guys, but if you want to compare the two Flashes, I got to go with the TV Flash, even with what I saw in the trailer. That's just me, but I don't know. What do you guys think?
I'm not sure I like how they've changed the Flash's powers around in the movie, because it seems like whenever he runs, the lightning destroys the environment around him, it almost looks like. Whereas our Flash on TV, there is lightning that kind of circles around him, but it doesn't really damage anything. So it seems almost like the Flash suit has been designed in Justice League to dampen those electrical charges that come out and strike things.
What struck me the most was that just the way they acted, and maybe I'm just used to Grant Gustin's way that he presents the Flash, but that was more flashy to me, no pun intended, than the Justice League. I just my opinion. I'm sorry, Neil, I'll cut you off.
No, not at all. I really enjoyed the trailer. I know that a lot of people were disappointed. I was inspired by the tone. Listen, it's not Grant. I think a lot of our Flashes now are Grant Gustin in real life. Unless you're a fan of the original TV show. And our network has a podcast about that. Go listen to Crimson Con and get their thoughts on the original Flash series. But listen, Grant is my Flash. He seems like he's your guys' Flash guys, but these are separate universes. So to the extent that it was never going to be Grant Gustin, I'm very open to Ezra Miller. I enjoyed the clips they had. Yes, if it were Grant, it would have been very cool. And there are some issues where he says, yeah, I need friends. Well, Barry Allen is a forensic scientist. He's got his S together. You know, I'm not sure he is the stereotypical nerd that they're kind of making him out to be. I don't like how they've changed the character, but hey, I like the tone. Didn't like the suit, but I am hopeful. I'm hopeful that it's moved in the right direction. And I overall very positive about Justice League.
Yeah, from the trailer, I have to say that I'm not cutting it off. Like, I'm not going to see it. Like, I'm not going to see Suicide Squad, but in the theaters at least. So I'm open to that. Wonder Woman will be my decision point on whether I return to a theater-based DC movie or not. Let's move on to some season 3 Flash trailers.
Well, did you see this one, SB? So again, at San Diego Comic-Con this year, the trailers for the next episodes of all the CW shows aired, and CW did a great thing, simultaneously putting them out on YouTube. I think a lot of these shows and a lot of these showrunners have learned their lessons, and it is great. And, you know, light spoiler alert here. We've talked about it before. It is a Flashpoint spoiler.
Chris, have you seen the trailer?
I have seen. I don't want to say much because it does set up everything that's going to occur in this Flashpoint world, and everything is different. And I don't want to ruin it for anyone that hasn't seen it yet, because it is a total delight to see how everything gets changed around.
Yeah.
Okay, so Neil, let me ask you a question. You brought it up. With SDCC, it's obvious that nothing can be contained, although I think they did contain one thing this year, but nothing can really be contained. And these companies are just simultaneously releasing this stuff as it's being shown on screen in the room so they can get the hits, right? They want all the publicity. What's the point of going to SDCC when you can get all this information anyway?
I think you can look at it from a different angle as well. What's the point of going to a live concert for your favorite band? It makes a lot of sense for a lot of people, but a lot of people say, I can get live CDs or tracks on YouTube. I can listen to the CD in the comfort of my own home, in my own stereo system. What's the point? I think there's always going to be something about seeing these people live, about having the chance to interact with them and to feel the buzz. Again, if you've ever watched stand-up comedy on YouTube, it can be funny. But in a room of 20, 50, 100 people who are all laughing at a comic, it's a different experience. And I think you can get the information, you can't get and you've been there. There's a vibe, right?
There's definitely a vibe, but I mean, I'm thinking about it. I guess I'm old and I'm curmudgeon-y and everything like that. I'm thinking about it in terms of the expense. Is the expense for me to go to SDCC worth it? And it is not for me, because what I would go for, because the vendor area is so crowded, it's so overrun that you don't have a lot of comic book stuff there anymore. It's all commercialized, even on the vendor stuff. So going there would be, for me, going to the panels, which I can see anyway later. So if you take into account the time that I would have to take off of work, the fact that I can't get tickets, the expense of the trip itself, the hotels that are ungodly expensive, I'm sorry, it's just not for me. I know it is for a lot of people, but I haven't heard an argument to bring me back to SDCC, San Diego Comic-Con. I haven't heard an argument to bring me back to San Diego Comic-Con. And that's sad, because it's such a great place to be. I do like the gas lamp district, whatever it's called. I do like that area, but the rest of the place, it's just a horde of geeks that honestly don't smell that great and everything. So I like the smaller cons. C2E2 was great. I'm sure I'd like Dragon Con just because I'd be roaming around. I don't know. I'll just have to see. Anyway, let's move on. I'm sorry I sidetracked us. We do have another trailer that was dropped during SDCC.
That's right. They did drop the trailer for season 2 of Vixen on the CW Seed. Again, Megalyn EK will be returning to portray the character Vixen for the second season in the fall. The clip that debuted at SDCC featured appearances by The Flash and Firestorm as the three heroes joined up to take down the Weather Wizard. So we've got more coming.
We do, and we talked about him before. Colton Hayes is welcome back at any point in time on Arrow, and apparently he has an appearance on Fox's Scream Queens.
I've never watched the show.
I haven't either, but I guess it's available, and basically the notes will be in the show notes. A lot of comics dropped this past week. They'll be dropping every other week, basically, for DC. And Batgirl came out. A bunch of other comics came out this week. We did a comic review show, if you go one back, so you can get all our thoughts on the DC Rebirth universe. And we'll just, due to time, we'll skip that section this week. Moving on into feedback, we had a ton of great feedback this week. First of all, Neil posted a poll in the middle of the podcast last week, basically asking, is hashtag Vox cool? And 100% said, forever, dude. So
as they should.
Vox stays.
Hashtag Vox is officially a thing.
We did have a bunch of people tweet us with trailers of the movies and so on and so forth that came out, like Wonder Woman, Justice League. Cajun Sean was a big tweeter for that. And then I guess a fan of the show has come over from Voices Defiance at Who I Am. This is me, Ms. Roxy. She said she is loving this rundown of Legends of Tomorrow. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we hope you stay with us for Arrow. I know you said you don't watch Arrow, but hang in there. This season, you might actually enjoy this season of Arrow if you've liked this season of Legends of Tomorrow. Well, talking about Voices of Defiance, it was also on the Gonna Geek Network. We have a ton of other great shows on the Gonna Geek Network, don't we, Chris?
That's right. We always try to highlight each week the fact that we are part of a network of podcasts, kind of a family of podcasts, I guess. It's the Gonna Geek Network that you can find over at GonnaGeekNetwork.com. We've got about 18 different podcasts there right now that'll tickle whatever your geek fancy is. We've pretty much got a show for that. And we try to highlight one episode off the network each week. This week, I want to talk to you guys about Better Podcasting, episode 38, entitled Mobile Podcasting. Now, this might seem kind of like a nice tie-in, seeing as there was just a mobile Starling Tribune recorded earlier this week. With summer getting in the way of podcasting schedules, SP and Steven discussed some considerations for mobile podcasting. And if you listen to that episode, then you can go and look on our YouTube channel and check out the live video production of SP, Neil, and Michelle talking comics. You might be able to see a lot of lessons learned between those two.
Yeah, a little bit. You know, I have to interject here. That was so funny because at the time that we recorded that episode, we didn't know we were going to do that episode in Indianapolis. So that was a little bit fortuitous right there.
I know. It's like it was almost planned or something.
And it wasn't. It totally. I'm here to say it. We didn't go live with that decision until what, Saturday afternoon, Neil?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So less than a day, we threw that together, and that was amazing. Neil did awesome with the show notes. Without Neil's show notes, that would not have happened. That was awesome. So thank you to our listeners and viewers. We appreciate you. If you're downloading the podcast, whether it's from Spreaker or a normal feed, whether you catch it on our website, watching our YouTube. And once again, thank you very much. Even though Chris was not involved in that podcast in Indianapolis, he did the video editing for the Indianapolis one. Thank you very much, Chris.
And I only screwed up like 3 seconds worth of it seems like, so I consider that a win.
and it wasn't catastrophic. It was still listenable.
Yes.
So that was cool.
I also want to take this opportunity to thank all of the live participants in our Blab chat and everybody that's joined us over on geeks.live. If you want to join in live, you can join in live on Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern over on geeks.live or blab.im and search for Starling Tribune. And don't forget that after the show, we always open up the fourth seat on the Blab interface for our live listeners to hang out and share their thoughts. You can watch the next live show on the Gonna Geek Network over on geeks.live, which is better podcasting, Friday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time.
Hey guys, while you're here, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. And if you have a chance, give us a 5-star review on iTunes, like us on Facebook, follow us on YouTube, and feel free to badger us on Twitter. You can find all of our contact information on the Gonna Geek Network over at gonnageeknetwork.com. And while you're there, check out the forums, check out some of the articles, and most definitely make sure you check out some of the other great podcasts that make up the network.
And if you want to share your thoughts, head on over to our Facebook page, send in a tweet, or you can always call at 1-612-888-CAVE. That's 612-888-2283, and we'll be sure to play your voicemail on the next podcast. Guys, before we sign off, if our listeners want to hear more of your silky smooth radio voices, where can they find you?
Well, they can find me on the great gonnageek.com network on the show Better Podcasting. If you're interested in podcasting yourself, it's a great show to check out to start your hobby podcast. Also, the gonnageek.com show with Chris and the network owner, Steven, who's also my co-host on Better Podcasting. And you can also catch me on a Marvel podcast, Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D.
So if you want to find me, you can head on over to the Gonna Geek Network, much like SP. I'm on the gonnageek.com show every Monday night at 8:45 p.m. over on geeks.live. In addition to that, I do the Starling Tribune with you fine gentlemen. I also do a solo news show, both live and recorded, called Nerd Alert News. You can find that on the Gonna Geek YouTube page or at nerdalertnews.com. And finally, I do kind of a Sunday geek news variety show, for lack of a better term, with some friends of mine called All Things Good and Nerdy that streams at 11 a.m. Eastern, and you can find that also at geeks.live. And that just recently went over 210 episodes, so holy crap, it's been around for a while.
It's amazing.
Awesome. Guys, another fun episode. Great to chat Legends of Tomorrow with you guys and run down some of the news. That about wraps it up for another week. Any last words before we sign off and open up the Blab interface to our live listeners? At Stargate Pioneer.
Hashtag Tokyo Time Drift.
Hashtag at the Chris Farrell.
Hashtag I used to be... No, I'm sorry. Hashtag Ninja Assassins with Swords.
And I am at Neil Isn't Witty, signing off with hashtag Talia Agul. Oracle, I think we're done here.
This was the Starling Tribune. You can leave us feedback at gonnageek.com or check out our archive at starlingtribune.com. Visit gonnageek.com for more podcasts. Music by Kevin MacLeod can be found at incompetech.com. This podcast is not produced or maintained by the CW, Warner Brothers Television, CTV, or DC Comics. All characters, stories, and situations are the property of Time Warner. No infringement is intended. We will see you for the next episode of CW's Arrow.
That is some intense triangle action SP.
I know. I just want to tell you guys that my family came down the next morning because they're all in bed right now. They're like, dude, you were playing that triangle really hard.
The appropriate response there is, kids, it's my jam.
Like, hey, look, I got the triangle. I'm going to play the triangle. Live with it.
That is awesome. Well done. I want you to unmute your mic one of these days, or at least have some background recording on.
I will. That would just ruin everything. Oh, we got Sunkiss coming in.
Who's got it?
I got it.
If the blab works.
Going.
Hey, Suncast.
Suncast.
What's up?
So San Diego Comic-Con, let's talk about that for a minute because
Yeah.
I totally get your point about not wanting to go, and a lot of it being due to the cost and just the hassle of getting around there. I completely understand that. But from the perspective of somebody who's never been there before and actually prefers the media part of Comic-Cons more than the comic stuff, to me, I'd love to go and experience it once. Same with Dragon Con. I'd love to go to each of those at least once.
I would love to do
if I
it
had
once
the
as
chance.
well, but I hate people, you see. So
Yeah.
there's far too many people there.
Dragon Con is a lot more feasible to me because I know, I mean, they've got the podcast, the Parsec Awards for podcasts. They've got whole podcast tracks. It's a little bit more accessible to the everyday fan. Now, I realize it's as big of a con as SDCC, but you've got, instead of 2 big hotels, you've got 4 main hotels and then a lot of other hotels around that area. And everything is largely right there. In San Diego Comic-Con, if you're not in the building, you're in the gas lamp district, or you're trying to find your hotel that's 15 miles away or whatever. The airport's small. Yeah. It's only got 1 runway just because of geographic concerns. And it's actually getting around in San Diego isn't that big of a deal, but just because, I mean, walking from one end to the other of the San Diego Convention Center itself is tough. And I'll agree with you. If you've never been and you're curious, definitely go. There's nothing preventing you from going other than cost or trying to get tickets or whatever. That started my dislike of San Diego Comic-Con, was just the fact of trying to get tickets, because they made it impossible.
I don't disagree with that whatsoever. And see, when it comes to local ones here, like Motor City Comic Con, I've been to it now twice. And the first year was, it was all right. And I decided, I kind of want to go again just to have a repeat experience and see how it is 2 years in a row. And it just wasn't good anymore. Like, I would not go back to it. I know it's a local con and it's fairly inexpensive for me to go, but the experience just is not there.
I know. So you were at C2E2 in Chicago.
Yes.
That is a 10th, if that, of what San Diego Comic-Con is.
And that was huge. And that's even C2 or C2E2 was bigger than Motor City Comic Con. And you would think that with Motor City Comic Con being smaller, you would have a much more intimate experience, which you do to some degree, but the organization and just the overall flow of things just is not there compared to C2E2 or a bigger, better organized event.
So that's because, for lack of a better term, C2E2 is like a tier 1B con, for lack of a better term. Consider it like SDCC a 1A. A lot of people are considering that the go-to con outside of C2E, outside of SDCC. You're seeing that said about like New York Comic Con and C2E2 now.
Exactly. Yeah, I was going to say New York Comic Con is on that list. Dragon Con is on that list.
Because they're not as
Orlando.
There's not as much of a crush. You can get rooms there a little more feasibly, and you still get almost the same kind of media exposure. Now, it's not the same as SDCC has been in the past, where it was every movie in the world's going to be here to show off trailers and have panels. But you even saw that start to back off some this year. You didn't have all sorts of Hollywood productions there, and Marvel's thing was much more understated compared to what it had been before, and same with the Star Wars event. So Well, in fact, next year the interesting thing is going to be is how much of Marvel and Disney isn't at SDCC, because I don't know if you guys saw the date. The Disney D23 event is literally the week before SDCC next year.
I mean, they'll have some kind of a presence, but it will be nothing compared to what's at their specific con.
Yeah.
But Suncast, you're in the Midwest, so you have C2E2 that's accessible. You have Indy and Indianapolis Comic Con that are accessible. You have Gen Con that's accessible. So those cons up and down I-65 are pretty good. I know Indy's a bit of a drive for you, but it's at least feasible. So that's just.
Funny enough, I actually drove through Indy a few days ago.
Oh yeah, that's right, you did.
On my way back from Nashville.
Neil and I were in Indianapolis, and I was thinking there was just no way to hook up. So
yeah.
But that would have been fun. But yeah, Indianapolis, actually, where Neil was staying was literally a block away from the convention center, or right across the street.
I think
really,
that would be IndyCon would probably be a good one to go to as well. But I also think part of that depends on, having somebody to go with and share the experience with, because if you're going to spend that much money going to a con, you want to meet people and be with a group of people. You can get away with it if it's a local con like Motor City Comic Con, but even then I found it pretty boring just going around by myself.
Yeah. Well, I know Jeannie lives up by you too. She does Tyrion's Landing, so you might want to consider hooking up with her for a local con up there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of small ones here. It's just after my experience with Motor City Comic Con this year, it's just like,
I know I'm looking
for something better organized.
I get that.
And you need a little mass too. There was something like Jeannie did panels earlier this year at a con, like in January or something like that. I'll have to dig that up.
How, to me, so much of the success of a con depends on the organization of the con itself. Yes, you can put it on year after year and get tens of thousands of people, but if it's poorly organized, it's not going to be a great experience. And Motor City Comic Con is not very well organized.
Well, take a look at what happened down in Houston earlier this year, right? That was a whole debacle.
Yeah.
That was a major con.
I would really recommend, if you're, well, again, you're more into the media side than the comic side, but if you're, for any of our listeners that are into the comic side,
for a second, C2E2 being a much more focused on comic stuff, I actually found enjoyable.
Well, Emerald City Con up in Seattle has the largest artist alley of any of those tier 1B cons.
That would be exciting.
They're really focused on the artwork. And we ran into a lot of the artists that were saying, yeah, I sell twice as much art at Emerald City as I do at a standard con. And for that reason, more artists are coming and more fans are coming for the art. And the cosplay is freaking awesome. So
yeah, that's what San Diego.
That's just another component of a con that, to me, is if it's successful, if you have a lot of cosplayers. Motor City Comic Con does not have a lot of cosplayers. You get some, but nowhere near to the scale that I saw with C2E2.
Yeah, that was pretty. And if you like cosplaying, there's Dragon Con, and then there's also Baltimore has, I can't remember the name of Omega Con or some Omnicrom or something like that. That is the cosplay king of the area. San Diego Comic has a lot, but Omnicrom or whatever that's called in Baltimore is pretty cool.
Yeah, if I could afford it, I think my next big con would be Dragon Con. Yeah. That's
that's on my list too. I would love to do that one day.
Yeah, like if we all decided 1 year to go, I'd try and find a way to make it work.
I'm trying to remember who I was talking to. Somebody said that in 2017 their buddies were trying to get them to go down. Yeah, it was Neil. Yeah.
I've got a buddy who lives in Atlanta who wants us to go down for an entire week of D&D leading up to Dragon Con.
That'd be fun.
That would be cool.
That'd be hilarious.
It would.
I used to live in the Atlanta area for a few years. It's a very interesting place. I haven't been there back in years, but I wouldn't mind being back there.
Cool.
The last time I saw Atlanta was in The Walking Dead, and it looked like it was a little ruined. So
just a little bit.
Hey guys, I have house guests this evening, so I am going to have to wrap it up shortly here. But hey, Suncast, thanks for hopping on, guys. Always a blast.
Yep, we'll
Cheers.
see you next week, Neil.
Talk to you later, guys. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.
All right, guys, I'm going to
If
get
you
going
guys need
too.
to go, just go ahead. I'm just BSing here at this point.
Is that the AT 2005 you're on there?
It is.
Ooh.
How's it
Thought
sound?
it was.
You sound
Yeah,
good.
you do.
Really?
Yeah.
I tweaked the EQ just a little bit, just to give it a little bit more high and a little bit more bass.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
a little bit.
I can hear less of your room.
I'm still not sure. I think for overall clarity and brightness, I like my Behringer B1.
I mean, nothing's going to compete for that, but you're fighting against the room echo and the room noise. And so there's nothing that can beat a dynamic cardioid in those. And even the podcast that I did with Neil, and it's unfortunate that he had to leave, in his hotel room. One, we had to turn off the AC, which was grueling because it was like, I'm not kidding, 100 degrees that day in Indianapolis. Two, and I drove a long way to get there. Two, even with the dynamic cardioid microphones, because of the way the walls are like bare in a hotel room or whatever, they were bouncing everywhere. And then three, we got tremendous amount of cross echo, and Chris had
hotel rooms are horrible.
I know, but we had nowhere else to record, so it's not like we can go in a meeting room or whatever, because that would have cost money. So Neil was fortunate enough to be able to get a mini suite, and we just recorded out in his living room area. And it was, if you take a look at the video, we are really scrunched in there. The chairs are, you can't hardly move the chairs from where they were and everything.
Which podcast is this?
It was Starling Tribune, the one right before this. It was released yesterday, but the video's been out for a while. It's Starling Tribune 113 Rebirth comic special.
I'll put the link in the chat to the video.
On the Gonna Geek YouTube?
Yeah, it's in the chat. I'm dropping it right now.
So Michelle, Neil, and I met, and we did a Rebirth comic review up to that point. We didn't talk Flash. I think that was a big mistake, but we just ran out of time, because our prime was we're going to do Green Arrow, and then after that we did what we were liking. I did Green Lanterns, talked a little bit about Aquaman, and Michelle did Wonder Woman, and Neil did Detective Comics. So it was a really cool podcast, and being able to get together in person. I've only done a few in-person podcasts, and I've seen even a few more, but it's always interesting bringing those together.
Yeah, you are listening to the
Yeah, so like there, for instance, is what the room layout was for them, because this actually still works in Blab to show YouTube videos.
Yeah, I muted it, but
yeah, I did too.
I was using a Sennheiser MD46, and Neil took my Sennheiser E935, and Michelle used my Blue 100 Encore, all dynamic cardioid microphones. And they asked, I had my 2005 with me, I had my 2100 with me. Michelle and Neil asked if they needed to bring their 2005s. I said, nah, we'll just go with what I got, and that worked. So
I would love to try some other microphones and ideas out, because it's like, on one hand, should I look more into getting a DBX where I can do, some light processing and gating, or should I spend the money on getting another dynamic cardioid microphone, like a BP40?
Well, so Steven's going to be releasing within the next week now. We're hard over on this. Within the next 14 days, I'll put a stake in the sand. He's going to be releasing his microphone review. And you've seen the microphones up on his shelf, on his backdrop. So he's going to be doing all of those. So you're going to get our take on those microphones. It's not comprehensive, but it'll give you an idea. And in the grand scheme of things, there's little differences. There's a big difference in a couple of them, which one of them really surprised me, but there's not. If you stay within the other microphones, you're going to be doing good. If you want to stay in the under $100 range, if you want to stay with the dynamic cardioid microphone and you want to get a fuller sound, then you are going to Shure SM7B or a RE320 or a BP40 or the Rode, and I forget what it is with the XLR. It's Rode Procaster or Podcaster. I forget what. I think it's Procaster.
Procaster, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're going up into that realm of microphone if you want to get a fuller sound. And then if you want to take it a step further in order to maximize it, then the DBX is where to go. But then you're spending money and you sound just fine. I just wanted to let you know there's no reason for you to spend money. You sound fine the way you are.
It's just that audiophile in me wanting to have the best, having used that Behringer B1 for 10 years. I'm a bit of an audiophile. I can hear the differences between the two microphones because I'm so used to what I sound like with that particular microphone. Trying to get something of a dynamic cardio where it's going to pick up less room noise, but give me a very similar sound.
Yeah. That's why I went with the RE320. It best fits the sound that I want.
Yeah.
Oh, I was so tempted to pull the trigger on that. It's still, that promo is still going on it though too, and I was sitting there. I was like, I don't need it.
I think I'm a lot like you in that regard, where I want to try all these options and figure out what's the best option for me, because like you've said in the past, it's every person sounds different on every single microphone. Nobody sounds the same. It's always going to be very subjective, and the only real way to figure that out is to actually get these microphones and try them out, especially trying them out in the environment that you intend to use them.
Now, that said, the last 2 weeks on Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., I've had to edit everybody on a 2005 or 2100. The fact that I'm using a DBX with the gate on it, the gate helps tremendously cut down those little ticks, those mouse clicks.
Oh, yeah.
You could still hear a mouse click on my track, but it's really muted. The keyboards, the chair squeaking, sometimes the breathing, whatever, the gate really helps with that. So the even with a 2005, if you can gate that sucker, even if you're using Behringer 2600 just for the gate function, you're doing fine. I had to go for the DBX because I was looking for preamp gain, I was looking for a de-esser, and I was looking for a gate, and I got all that with the DBX, and it's been amazing. And Dave Jackson has that Aphex, that $1,000 Aphex, and he's like, it doesn't get me anything in addition to what I've got.
Right. It's I know it's a combination of the both, but at this point, with my budget, it's one or the other at this point. I only bought this microphone because it was so cheap, and I was looking to try a dynamic cardio in my situation, and this was a very good microphone for the price.
And it's a great travel mic if you need it now too.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, all right, I've wanting to have one of these on hand for a while now, and it was just at that price where it was too good to pass up.
So I use the 2100 and 2005 in my bag. If it was just Neil and me, I would have just taken those. But because I just got the MD46 and Michelle was going to be there, I was like, okay, I know I had a hunch, and we let Michelle choose which microphone which you want. And she took a look at that blue Encore 100. She's like, ooh, pretty. I want that one. Okay.
That's what I'm using right now, actually.
Right. And it's a good microphone. I have one. I just prefer the sound of other microphones for me. So I brought that, and then I brought the E935 and the new Sennheiser MD46. I had never tried it before, and I still have my 2005 with me in case I needed that. So